Good afternoon, students. So today we are going to start with our very first lecture. And before I start the lecture, I would like to tell you all the subject name of your today's lecture is Fundamentals of Plant Breeding, and it is
Excuse me, ma'am.
fundamentals of.
Ma'am, PPT is not visible.
Good afternoon, students. Today I'm going to start with your very first lecture. And before I start the lecture, I would like to introduce you all with the subject name of the subject. The subject name is Fundamentals of Plant Breeding, and the code for this subject is 30290. Now, the very first topic that we are going to discuss today, that is all about the historical development, then concept of plant breeding, nature of plant breeding, what is actually the role of plant breeding, then major achievements that had been done till now in the field of plant breeding, and at the end we will also talk about the future prospects of plant breeding. So before I actually move to the all about historical development, concept, nature, role, I would like to make you familiar with what actually is the plant breeding. So plant breeding is what? We can call the plant breeding as an art. We can call it as an science, but it is not. If we talk individually, then it is not an art also. Then it is not an science also. But it is the technology that is altogether the combination of art and science. So plant breeding is referred as technology. That technology that is utilized for the improvement of genetic makeup of the plant, because in the plant when we talk about the genetic content, and this genetic content is also said to be genetic makeup. Genetic makeup means there is one form of the genetic makeup, that is DNA, and this what I have drawn is the structure of DNA itself. It is a structure of DNA itself. So whenever we are talking for the plant breeding, that is plant breeding is altogether the combination of art and science. That means it is a technology that uses human imagination and combines the human imaginations with scientific procedure, and it all together becomes the technology, and this technology is later on utilized on this DNA for the improvement of the DNA. Now you must be thinking out why we need to go for the improvement of the DNA. Then the reason behind why we are going for the improvement of the DNA, because say actually certain desires we have certain desires in regard to our plant, and those desires include like we want our plant to give higher yield, we want the plant to be resistant against number of diseases, resistant against the attack of number of pest insect, we want the plant to be of tall height, we want it to be resistant against lodging characteristics. That means we want many features within our plant, right? Because if these all features are not present, then even after we are growing the plant, then it all will be resources of wastage of the resources, and it will also include the wastage of the time. So our motto is to have the plant that gives all these desirable features. But in case see, because plant when the plant will grow, it may be like plant is no more having all these desirable features, Then how you can add the desirable features into the plant? This is very easy. The desirable features, they can be added into the plant. They can be added into the plant by using the technique that is said to be plant breeding. In plant breeding, we actually select a plant, and within the plant we extract its DNA that gives higher yield, and these genes which are of desirable, which are producing the desirable effects, these are later on added into the plant, that is no more giving the desirable effects. So this is all about breeding. So breeding is what? It is an art and science, that means it is a technology that is basically used to improve the genetic makeup of the plant, so that it could be made, this plant could be made more beneficial to the mankind. Because whatever we do for the welfare of the society. So if the farmers are not getting the good yield, then our motto must be our motto must be like, we used to improve the plant up to the extent that it fulfills the basic needs of the farmer as well as of the society. So we can call it as a science of crop improvement also. We can also call it as a science of changing and improving the heredity of the plants. So these are the certain definitions also we can say, and these are also the concept that is a fundamental of plant breeding. So this is all about your subject name, that is fundamentals of plant breeding. Now I will be moving to our first lecture topic, and your first lecture is all about our very first topic within the first lecture that we are going to discuss today is about historical development. Historical development means how in the background, when we go back in the flash, when we go back to the historical backup, then we need to look like how this plant breeding actually came into the existence. Then its existence is actually divided into 5 different phases. Very first one is the domestication, then is the selection, then is the hybridization, then is the hybridization, then is the novel genes variation, and the last step is genetic variations. Now coming to the first one, that is domestication. Domestication is what? Domestication, actually domestication is, it is actually involving the human activity. The plants, while we were not growing the plants, plants were being grown in a natural way and in wild way. In wild way means they were being found in the forest, in the jungles, etc. When there was no human interference. Then when human civilization took place, humans started looking after the plants and started providing care to the plants under its own supervision. This process, in which these wild species are picked up from the farms and later on they are introduced under the human care, this is actually said to be domestication. When human got civilized, what he started doing, he started picking up the wild species. Wild species means a species which were growing naturally, and these species were later on brought under the care of human. This domestication, one, you must be thinking like when this actually started happening, then this domestication began over 11,000 years ago. And you know, this domestication, that is bringing the wild species from its natural habitat and then providing it to the providing it the environment of under human, that is said to be domestication. It is actually very important, and this is very important and very first step that is actually required for the crop improvement. Because when we look after the improvement of the crops, we are to look after number of the features. Say, for example, if I give you a crop that is named A, if I give you this crop and I say go for its modification, then you need to decide number of the parameters which are actually to be looked after for its modification. But you know, the very first parameter that you will decide for the improvement of the crop, that is nothing else but it is the domestication. That means domestication is the very first effort that is put by the farmer, or that is put by the farmer for the improvement of the hereditary content of the plant. But when any plant is picked from its natural environment and then it is introduced into the artificial environment, then it starts growing. Now after it has been domesticated, that it has been brought under the observation of a human, then there occurs another parameter, that is selection. That means now you need to decide the plant that you actually got from its natural environment to the another environment, whether it is giving you the features that are actually that are actually required or not. So that means selection can be taken naturally also, or human can look after, like this plant is to be kept or this plant is not to be kept. So selection is taking place by two parameters. Very first is natural one and another one is by the human. And this domestication has not stopped right now. Like this is still taking place till now, and even we think like this domestication parameter is not going to end, and it will be continuing in the future also. So this is historical development, very first parameter, that is domestication. Now the next is, after domestication, the next is selection. Selection is, as I told, very first is domestication. Now in the selection, what we are doing, we suppose we have grown this plant that is under the observation of the human. Now it is not always that like this wild species, it is not always like this wild species which is picked from the wild area, it will be giving you suitable results. It will be giving you suitable result. This is not always ensured. If it gives you suitable result, then it can be selected. And if it is not giving you suitable results, it can be rejected. But the parameter of selection is like there are two parameters. Very first one is like the parameter is that is done by the humans, and another parameter is naturally selection is taking place. If I give you one of the example of selection, then these were the scientists' named who around 1814 used the selection methods, and in the selection methods they actually utilized two selection categories. Very first is individual plant selection and then is progeny test, right? Because when this plant will grow, it will produce further its offsprings also, and the offsprings which are produced, that is said to be progeny. So how the selection can be done? Selection can be done either we go for the checking of individual plant, or if we are not checking the individual plant, then we can look after the testing of progeny, so that certain useful varieties could be developed. So this is selection. So selection is taking place in two ways. Very first is by humans, and the next one is natural. Now the third phase of development, like how plant breeding got developed one by one, that is involving the third phase, and this third phase is said to be the hybridization. In third phase, they utilized a technique that is said to be hybridization. This hybridization was utilized up to the larger and larger extent. If you could understand, I am again going back, like very first step is domestication. In domestication, what is done? In domestication, wild species is picked and it is brought under the observation of human. Then it is selected. Suppose if the selection, this is selected, see, suppose if the selected one is giving features which are of good quality, then this selected variety, say it is denoted by S, then it can be crossed with other varieties. It can be crossed with other, V means variety. It can be crossed with other variety so that its features could be transferred into the another variety also, right? So this is domestication is the very first historical development. Then is the selection, and then is the hybridization. So hybridization is this, where the selected variety is now being crossed. This cross is said to be hybridization, right? So in the third phase, they started going for the hybridization, and they utilized the hybridization up to the maximum extent so that the crop could be improved. If we talk for the main feature of this phase, then the main feature is like this selected variety is to be crossed with what kind of variety that is very well planned. That is very well planned. And also the type of the hybridization is controlled. That means it is conducted within the decided parameters. So the feature is it is planned and controlled. Controlled means up the variety, if it is diverse, then up to what extent it is diverse. So these parameters are controlled so that new and more desirable combinations could be generated among the existing genes. Now hybridization, basically two types of hybridization we are going for. This cross is being done among two kinds of species. Very first one is both the species are different, but they belong to same or different genera, and this is said to be distant hybridization. The next one is somatic hybridization. That means the hybridization that is taking place between the protoplast. Now one question must be coming into your mind, like what are protoplasts? So protoplasts are the cells which do not have the cell wall around it. So this cell wall, when it is removed, then the left cell, we call it as a protoplast. So this is a hybridization where selected variety is being crossed with the controlled one, right? Now after the phase 3, we have fourth stage of historical development, and this is called as novel genetic variations. Novel genetic variations means, now variations, we want to create the variations. This is first step. Again I'm repeating, this is second step. Hybridization is third step. And now fourth is the creation of novel genetic variations. That means you are not only to focus upon the creation of the variations, that means the creation of different changes within the plant, but the changes, you must also ensure that the changes which are which we are looking after, or which we ensure, or which we desire within the plant, they must be of novel, they must include novel. That means new genetic variations must take place. And these, whenever we talk for the variations, there are two ways how variations can be done. Very first one is either you go for inducing mutations at your own, or either mutations take place naturally. But here two kinds of mutations are there. One are somaclonal variations, and another are induced mutations. Induced means you are exposing your plant to UV rays, or to the gamma rays, or to the X rays. And here you can also go for the utilization of chemicals also. like ethyl methane sulfonate can be used for inducing mutations. But in the somaclonal variations, what we do here, we go for the plant tissue culture where the cell is grown under the artificial conditions and certain chemicals are introduced into these cultured cells. The third way how mutations, novel genetic variations could be created is the polyploidy. Polyploidy means more than one variations within the plant. Now, the next is, this is polyploidy. Polyploidy means what? If within the polyploidy single gene is exploited, then it is said to be autopolyploidy. And if more are two or more distinct genomes are brought together, then it is said to be allopolyploidy. The last phase of historical development is genetic engineering. And you know, the basic concept of genetic engineering, it is based on totipotency. Now again question must be striking into your mind, like what is totipotency? So totipotency is actually the ability of the cell to divide and redivide and result in the formation of a complete cell. So totipotency is when combined with recombinant DNA technology. Totipotency is when coupled, that means combined with recombinant DNA technology, it has led to the formation of current phase. So here what we need to do, we need to isolate and clone the specific useful genes, and later on they are to be transferred into the plants. So I let you know this one also. So in recombinant DNA technology, we used to have plasmid. In plasmid, we used to have one sequence that is no more required. So this sequence is removed. This much sequence is removed, and to this sequence is inserted our desired gene of interest. Say this is our desired gene of interest. Recombinant means something to be combined. So the result will be, you have the plasmid, but the plasmid is now having your desirable gene. It is having your desirable gene. Now this is to be transferred into plants. So this is genetic engineering, right? So these all are the phases that have usually taken place, or that have usually been say utilized while the historical development of crops. Now the next is concept of plant breeding. Like what comes into your mind when you think for the plant breeding? Whenever you think for the plant breeding, the very first thing comes into the mind, like we think of the future. When we think of the future, then we are very much insured with the number, like in the coming years, human population is going to increase. Human population is going to increase to many number. Obviously, human population is increasing, but along with the increase of human population, we won't be having the plants which are giving a higher yield. Which are giving the higher yield, right? So what must be our motto? Our motto must be like, whatever number of humans they are going to rise in the coming years, that must be all those number of the humans, or all those number of individuals must be provided with the food grain, that means with the supply of food. So if I give you one estimate of India, then this much million tons to this much million tons. This is one of the survey that was carried in 1947 to 50, from this period to 1985 to 86. At that time, it was recognized like food time production This was the period, and they estimated like in the coming period, this much population, this much food grain production must be supplied. That means we need to work very hard. But you know, the concept of plant breeding was like the international development agencies, they had a trust that whatever new breeding crops they are going to be generated, they are going to ensure this much food supply. That means they are going to ensure the food security, and whatever practices that are developing, they will be suitable for the environment. So the concept was only one thing. The concept was divided into two parameters. Very first concept is they had the trust like the whatever the crop varieties, whatever improved crop varieties are going to be produced, those improved crop varieties will fulfill the food supply. And the second concept of plant breeding was whatever the practices are being developed, those practices, developing practices through the development of crops will be suitable for their environment also. So this is the concept of plant breeding. Next is nature of plant breeding. The nature of plant breeding is, as I already told you in the definition of plant breeding, the nature is, before I actually talk for the nature, I will be discussing about art and about science. Art is what? Art is all about the human imaginations. We can say it is all about creativity. We can say it is all about skills. And when we talk for the science, science is what? It is actually the knowledge that we actually obtained through methods of observations, hypothesization, experimentation, and interpretation. But technology is the combination of art and science, right? So, but the goal of this technology, is always to develop an improved crop variety that could be utilized by the farmers for commercial cultivation. That means for the production of crops in the excess amount. So the nature, if we come to the conclusion of what is the nature of plant breeding, then plant breeding nature is like it is viewed as a technology, because it is not the human imagination that is going to give you useful products. It is not only the knowledge that is going to give you the useful product, but it is the technology that is going to give you the useful products. And from useful products I mean improved crop varieties. So this is the nature of plant breeding. Next is role of plant breeding. Till now, the role must have been clear to you all, and if still it is not clear, I would like to inform like the role of plant breeding is very easy, and that role is very clear, and that role is only and only the improvement. Now, improvement of what? Improvement of characteristics of the plants, so that they become more desirable in terms of agronomically and in terms of economics also, right? So this is the role of plant breeding. Next is the role of plant breeding is like, as I said in the previous slide, it is to improve the characteristics of the plants. Now the characteristics of the plants which are to be improved, those characteristics are like plant must give higher yield, plant must be of improved quality, it must be abiotic resistant. Now this is clear. Higher yield means like the outcome that is produced after the harvesting, that must be of a high amount. When we say for the improved quality, then improved quality means what? The size of the grain should be of good nature, color should be good, then cooling quality must be there, malting quality must be there. So protein content in the protein, protein content in the protein must be of must be in the range. So these all are the improved qualities. But abiotic resistance is what? Abiotic. Abiotic is, A means, biotic means living. When A is attached to the abiotic, then it becomes non-living. So abiotic includes the parameters which are non-living. Say soil salinity. A very simple example I will give you is of extreme temperature. Temperature is non-living parameter, right? Then wind is non-living parameter. Cold, frost. Similarly, drought means when there is a lesser amount of the water available, then the conditions which prevails are said to be the drought conditions. Then is soil salinity means in the soil the amount of salt is either high or it is less. Salinity means higher amount of the soil salt within the soil. But when temperature becomes higher, when wind is blowing at a higher rate, when there is too much cold, when there is too much frost, and water supply is very less, due to which drought conditions are prevailing, and even the soil amount is varying within the soil, salt amount is varying within the soil. Under these conditions, plant is no more capable of growing properly. These all parameters causes hindrance in the growth of the plant. But the role of plant breeding is what? Plant breeding actually overcomes all these parameters by improving the genetic content of the plant. By the help of plant breeding, with the help of plant breeding, we can modify the genetic content, and that modified genetic content will not be susceptible to all these parameters. That means it will not be affected by high temperature, a high wind velocity, high cold existence, frost conditions, and so on. This is said to be abiotic resistant. That means whatever the improved variety is created by the farmer or say by the breeder, it will not be affected by these all parameters. So this is said to be abiotic. Resistance means it is no more having any effect of these adverse, will not be having any effect of these extreme conditions. Now the next role of plant breeding is biotic resistant. Biotic means now the parameters which actually affect the plant are living in the nature, and a living organism can cause diseases. In the living organism, we have the insect that actually attack the plant. So biotic resistance is what we improve the plant hydrity material up to the extent that it is now no more susceptible to the attack of diseases or to the attack of insect. Then with the help of plant breeding, we can change the maturity durations. If I give you one example, then we talk for the cotton. Cotton normally used to get mature in 270 days. But by improving its DNA content, the maturity we can allow the cotton to grow in 170 days only. Similarly, for pigeon pea, and the number of the days is reduced from 270 to 120 days, and in case of sugar cane, see the number of days is reduced from 360 to 270 days. So that means we can induce early maturation. This is the reason it is also said to be earliness. Then we can determine growth. We can allow the growth to be up to a particular height, like mung, pigeon pea, and in cotton, determinate growth has already been achieved. Sometimes what happens, seeds undergo the dormancy period where they are no more growing, right? They actually enter into the sleeping phase. But with the help of the plant breeding, we can allow the seeds to not undergo the dormancy phase. Then we can improve the agronomic characteristics. That itself is also one of the role of plant breeding. Like we can improve plant height, We can improve growth habit. We can improve its erectness. That means plant nature is like it stand states. And the trailing habits, they can also be removed, and this all is also the role of plant breeding. Then while the plant grows, it produces two kinds of substances. One are primary metabolites, and second one are secondary metabolites. Two kinds of metabolites are basically produced while the plant grows, and these production is taking place in the different phases of growth curve. But when we talk for the secondary metabolites, these include toxins also. And if these toxins are if intaken by the human beings or by the living organism, it can lead to their death also. But by the plant breeding, we can remove these toxins so that it no more causes the any hazardous effect to the human health. If I talk for certain very dangerous toxins, then say in the case 3 we have neurotoxin, and that is actually responsible for causing paralysis. Then we have erucic acid in brassica, and it also affects the human health if it is mistakenly consumed by the humans, right? Now we can also, role of the plant breeding is like we can also create the varieties which are resistant to shattering. Sometimes what happens from the plants, the leaves keep on shedding, and that means actually the leaves are removed from the plant. This is said to be shattering. Now there used to be two terms, as I have already explained. One used to be susceptible, and another used to be resistance. If within the plant shattering is taking place, then it is susceptible. That means whenever in high velocity wind will be blowing, the leaves will start shattering onto the earth. But if we improve the genetic content of the DNA, then it can be like it will not. So when for the second time when the again wind will be blowing, then at that particular time this no shattering will take place. Now this is said to be resistant variety. So we can create, with the help of plant breeding, we can create a variety that is resistant to shattering. For example, green gram. So these are the roles of plant breeding, and here we don't end with the roles of plant breeding. We have certain more roles of the plant breeding. And the next, this role is synchronous maturity. Actually, what happens, you must have seen into your farms, like when a plant is growing, when you have sown different seeds at one particular time into the soil, when you have sown different seeds into the soil, then you must have observed like some products are harvested very early, and the same some seeds are harvested at a later stages. That means all are not being all are not growing and are not being harvested at one particular time. This growth that is taking place at the different timings, it is actually said to be synchronous maturity. And it is always very difficult when we go for the collection again and again from the same field, right? So but with the help of plant breeding, we have one role of the plant breeding, like it allows all the seeds to grow at one time, one particular time. That means it allows all the seeds to get mature at one time only. And this synchronous maturity is no more required in the crops like green pea, cow pea, castors, cotton, etc. So with the help of plant breeding, we remove the synchronous maturity and we allow all the seeds to grow at a particular time. The next is photo and thermo insensitivity. Photo means light and thermo means temperature. Sometimes what happens, our plants, they can no more withstand to the light conditions. That means they can survive or they can withstand only under the dark conditions. And we used to have the certain plants which are sensitive to the temperature. If temperature increases, then also they cannot tolerate the high temperature. If temperature decreases, then also they cannot tolerate lower temperature. So here it becomes a very difficult situation where plant is no more sensitive to the light conditions or to the temperature conditions. So what we can do here, we can improve the genetic content with the help of plant breeding, and now the plant can withstand plant. See, when it was not able to stand, then we say it was insensitive. It was sensitive. When it was not able to withstand high light conditions or withstand high temperature or low temperature, we called it as we called it as a sensitive plant. It is very sensitive. If it is exposed to high temperature conditions, it will burn, and if it is exposed to low temperature conditions, it will not grow, right? Similar is the case in case of light. But with the help of plant breeding, we can create the plant which is no more sensitive to the temperature and which is no more sensitive to the light conditions. That means it is insensitive to light and temperature. Then wider adaptability. Some plants are like they grow at one specialized area only. If they are taken out from this area and grown into some another area, they will not be growing. But with the help of plant breeding, we can create the varieties which can grow and withstand the different environmental conditions. That means their adaptability can be increased. And we can also create the varieties for the new season. This is also one of the role of plant breeding. So here I end up with the role of plant breeding. Now the next topic within the your lecture first is, you must be thinking what major achievements have been gained till now. So if we talk for the major achievements, then achievements are like the crops which were grown in the historical period. If we compare the plants which were grown earlier with the existing plants, then we can find like the present day crop plants, they are very different from wild weed. They are different from their parents, from where they got originated. Like what used to be there, we always used to say we have certain resemblance with our father or we have certain resemblance with our mother. But in case of the plants which are developed as a result of plant breeding, they no more resemble their parents. That means they are very different from their parents, which are actually the wild weed species. And you know how this change was brought, if you remember, then I discussed the very first phase is domestication, where plants were brought by the humans. They were brought under the supervision of human activity. And furthermore, human was no more restricted to stay at one area. Human kept on migrating from one area to the another area, to the third area, to the fourth area, and unknowingly they carried certain plant species with them from one area to the another area, to the third area, and to the third area. In this way, when environmental conditions kept on changing, then also certain with the passage of the time, There originated the varieties which had very good characteristics. And you know, some of these achievements are like the generation of semi-dwarf wheat and rice, novelization of Indian canes, hybrid millets, cotton, molecular breeding, transgenic varieties, etc. So these are the achievements that one has obtained as a result of plant breeding. Now I will be discussing all these 6 achievements one by one. Very first is semi-dwarf wheat rice, wheat and rice. Semi-dwarf is, see, one used to be tall variety, another used to be small variety. This smaller variety is said to be dwarf variety. Semi-dwarf means it is of size greater than dwarf variety. Very first I will discuss about wheat, this one, wheat. Semi-dwarf wheat, production of semi-dwarf wheat varieties, particularly of wheat and rice, it was an important development. It was an important achievement in terms of plant breeding. These semi-dwarf varieties of wheat and rice were actually developed by the scientist named N.E. Barlow and his co-workers. Actually, how they developed this semi-dwarf wheat variety, they used Japanese variety named Norin 10. This variety was used for the origination or for making semi-dwarf wheat varieties. And you know, there were many features of this Norin 10, like it was lodging resistant, fertilizer, it used to respond to fertilizers, it used to give high yield, it was resistant to rust and other diseases of wheat. Now, another feature of semi-dwarf wheat variety was, in addition to all those features that I discussed in the previous slide, like it is lodging resistant, it is resistant to another factors, right? So it is also resistant to, it is resistant to light, that means to photo. That means it is photo insensitive and it is suitable for planting also. This is all about semi-dwarf varieties. Again, I let you know, in the semi-dwarf varieties, no Japanese Norin 10 variety was utilized for the transfer of dwarfing genes. And as a result, we had many features in the semi-dwarf wheat varieties, like it used to respond to fertilizers, it could tolerate the heavy load onto the plant, it used to be high yielding, and so on. Now I come to another semi-dwarf variety, that is rice. When semi-dwarf rice variety was developed, with this came the revolutionization in the rice cultivation. And you know, like in case of wheat, Japanese Norin 10 was used for the for having the dwarf genes. In this case, Geo gen. This variety was used. This is actually said to be, this is actually the variety of Japonica rice. Yeah, this is taken from Taiwan, and this variety was taken for the development of semi-dwarf rice variety. And its symptoms are, its features are, it is also lodging resistant. That means it can tolerate heavy load. It responds to fertilizers. Actually, what happens? There used to be the certain we can say there used to be certain fertilizers. When they are added up into the soil at that particular time, uh, plants do not respond to the fertilizers which are given into the soil. That is, which are given into the soil, so that plants would uptake those fertilizers. But these dwarf varieties were the one varieties which used to respond to the fertilizers. That means whenever fertilizer was given to plant, either through a source of soil or either through the source of say water, it used to respond to those fertilizers. It also used to give higher yield and also responds to the light conditions. So this is all about a very first achievement, and this very first achievement is all about semi-dwarf wheat and rice. Now I come to the second achievement, that is mobilization of Indian canes. When we talk for the canes, we talk for the sugar cane. And you know, the Indian canes which were developed as a result of plant breeding. Basically, I will talk for the Indian canes, which was the origin of which is Saccharum barberi. This used to be grown in North India. What used to be its features? Like it used to be hardy, poor in yield, and sugar content. But from these Indian canes, tropical noble canes were created, the origin of which was Saccharum officinarum. Although they used to have thicker stem, but the sugar content was high. But the very drawback of it was it performed badly in the North India. That means when the area where low temperature conditions used to prevail, there its activity used to be, or there its performance used to be very low. Next is all about this Indian canes only. In the Combeutier was the one who transferred the thick stem, high sugar content from noble canes to Indian canes. So I discussed with you two canes. One is this Indian canes and another is noble canes. But Combeutier transferred these noble canes to the Indian canes, and that is also one of the achievement of plant breeding. Next is hybrid millets. Hybrid means that is the result of hybridization, and the major achievement in terms of hybrid millet is like it is important in terms like it yielded up to 40% more than the varieties which were locally existing. It used to give higher yield, and that higher amount is 40% more than the amount which was being obtained from the local open pollinated varieties. This hybrid millets development it began in 1961, and the very first hybrid variety is CSH1 in sugarcane and HB1 in bajra. These were released in 1964. Next is hybrid cotton. The very first variety that was developed is H4. So I was talking for the major achievements, and the next achievement was a hybrid cotton. And in hybrid cotton, I was letting you all know that the very first developed variety in hybrid cotton is H4. Thereafter, many other hybrid varieties were created like GKHY1, Godavari, Sugana, and many more were released for the cultivation. Features were again like high yielding and good fiber quality. Now the next achievement is molecular breeding. In the molecular breeding, breeding is done, but it is done with the help of certain markers like molecular markers. That means it actually utilized molecular biology techniques. In this way, indirect selection was done for the desirable genes. We have certain results of molecular breeding, like we developed the varieties like Pusa Basmati 1, Swarna Sav 1, and Vivek QPM9. Last one is transgenic varieties. It actually utilized the recombinant DNA technology or transgene technology. And as a result, we could have the varieties which were no more susceptible to the attack of insect. That means the BT cotton hybrids, and we had Bikaneri, Narma, and NHH4 also. So these all were the major achievements. Now I come to the last topic of my lecture, that is what you must be thinking, you must have read, you came through like the concept of breeding, role of breeding, then you came out through the various developmental phases of the breeding. But yeah, now the question that must be striking into your mind is what are the future prospects of plant breeding? So future prospect is very clear. That means that is as the population is increasing, but with the increase of the population, there is decline in the environment. Environmental conditions, like you must have seen, pollution is increasing, like water is getting spoiled with the help of chemicals and etc. Like we are no more, more frequently, we are not using organic farming. We are using fertilizers and chemicals. So that in turn is affecting our soil, our climate, and many more. But if we correlate this environmental factor with the population will keep on increasing. But due to the decline in the environment, a crops amount will keep on decreasing because there will be the scarcity of water, area where area of cultivable land, because as the human population is increasing, they will be they will be demanding houses, and houses are to be built on the soil. That means the land where cultivation is to be carried out, that land area will decrease along with the increase of population of humans. If if population is increasing, then pollution will also increase, and there will be the degradation of environment. That means environment will get more polluted, and constantly there will be emergence of new pathotypes, and there will be the shortage of nutrients also. So these all parameters, when we look into these parameters, so the future aspects is very and very clear. Like we must be having the varieties which could withstand all these environmental, declined environmental conditions, right? So modification in the genetic makeup of the crops, therefore, is expected to be quite rewarding in the future as well as. And this is possible only with the help of genetic engineering. So with this, I end up my today's lecture. Uh, Now I am sharing polls with you all. Kindly go for answering the polls. So this is my first question. What is the nature of plant breeding? And here I am launching the poll. All are requested to answer the poll. Very good. Left students to answer soon. All to go for the temptation. 2 seconds more. Time is going to end up. There are, I think, 3 to 4 more students who have not answered yet. Kindly answer. Okay, thank you. With this, I end my first poll. Here goes the second pole. Very good. One more minute. Okay, I'm ending up the time. All to answer fast. Okay, I'm ending up the second poll.